Hey everyone, welcome back to the Ideas and Inspiration podcast. Today I've got Nishant Kasibhatla here with me. Nishant is a Guinness World Record holder for memory. He's also a Grandmaster of Memory and a professional speaker. Nishant's video on the Ideas and Inspiration channel has over 15 million views and it is still growing. And Nishant has a video on his own YouTube channel that talks about how to 10x your memory, and that has over 1 million views. So today, I've got Nishant here because I want to ask him a very important question, which is, can we really 10x our memory? So, Nishant, thank you so much for joining me here today.
My pleasure, Jit. Always great seeing you and being a part of this wonderful channel that you have.
Nishant, so let's talk about your video.
Right.
On how to 10x your memory.
Correct.
Okay. So my first question to you is this.
Yeah.
Is it really possible to 10x your memory, or was that just a buzzword that you use?
Okay. Now, if you ask me, of course, I will say definitely it's possible. I mean, it might look like a lot, right? Because a lot of people are struggling to even double their memory or something like that. But the moment you say 10x, it might look like, oh, it's just a kind of a clickbaity kind of a thing. But what exactly is 10x? Let's say, for example, you can right now remember 5 words easily, effortlessly. And if you use some memory techniques, if you use some learning techniques, and if you can remember 50 words, that's 10x, right?
Yep.
And it's easy. I mean, if you can remember 5 without any techniques, and to be able to remember 50 with technique is a very easy thing. Or similarly, let's say you take 10 hours to learn something right now, and if you can do it in 1 hour, that's 10xing your memory also, in terms of time, in terms of the energy that is required. So, I personally in my life, I have actually, I don't know how many times, maybe 500x, because I started with scratch. I was like, I could not even memorize a 5-digit number and all the way up to memorizing a 2000-digit number and all that stuff. It's definitely possible. In fact, a lot of people who take my courses easily within the first 1-2 weeks of doing this program itself, they can see that they can go 2x, 3x, 5x. So the short answer for your question is definitely possible, and in fact, one should be on their path, because I believe that people are not using or utilizing their memory potential to the fullest. Even if you use a little bit more than what you're using, 2x, 3x is just easily possible.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I think you probably would have heard this as well, because I know I've heard this many times where people say, I'm just not born with a good memory.
Yes.
You know, I'm not blessed with a good memory. You know,
Right.
I'm not like you. I don't have a photographic memory.
Right.
Is that really a thing? Are you really born with a good or bad memory, or can you train your memory?
That's a good question. It's frequently, a lot of people ask me this question as well. And especially when people see me doing those demonstrations, memorizing long numbers and stuff like that, it's very easy to assume that, oh, this is God gifted. He's born with that. He's a, he's a genius at birth and all that stuff. But like I said, I started with absolute crazy. Absolute zero, crazy zero. So I almost failed in my primary school examinations. That was how bad my memory was. So what I believe is everyone has a gift of a great memory.
Okay.
It's just that some of us are opening the gift and using it, and some of us are not using it. So we are already born. If I am born with it, you're born with it too. It's just that you have to open the gift, start using it, and you can actually use more of your memory. So even when I say, okay, I can improve your memory, I'm not saying that I'm going to add some RAM or something onto your brain. It's not possible, right? Yeah. So when I say I'll help you improve your memory, or I'll help you 10x your memory, what I'm saying is I'm actually helping you use more of your already existing potential.
Okay.
You already have it. So to say that I'm born with a great memory, no, that's just a wrong notion. Anyone at any stage of life, irrespective of how bad they think their memory is, can train their memory, and they can make it 2x, 3x, 5x, 10x, or maybe 50x or 100x.
Got it. Right. So just to lay rest to some assumptions, okay?
Right.
Do you have a photographic memory?
Oh, that's a great question. Now, when people talk about photographic memory, in real life, it is almost impossible for anyone to have photographic memory.
Okay.
Okay. Now, what exactly is the photographic memory in the true sense? Is, let's say, for example, you show me a picture of, I don't know, say a random picture that's got some, say, 93 dots on it, example. You show it to me for a second or 5 seconds, and I look at it, and then you take away, and then you can ask me, Nishant, how many dots were there? If I can tell you that number, I've got a photographic memory. Because let's say if I took a picture of that photograph, that picture, and then let's say I take the printout of that, and then you ask me, Nishant, how many dots were there? I can actually count it. But will my brain be able to take a picture like that and be able to count the number of dots? I don't think that is possible. So when people say that someone has a photographic memory, it's usually a superlative thing. It really doesn't exist. But when people see me doing the demonstration of 50 digits, it looks like photographic memory, but it is nowhere near that. So the answer is no. I mean, there's nothing like a photographic memory. There might be some people born who are like savants, and uh, those people gifted maybe like 1 in a billion. They
Okay.
might have that, but for most people like you and me, no. It's just you just need to train your memory more, and it can look like photographic memory, but there's no photographic memory.
So
That's my
training,
take.
so training is definitely possible for everyone, right?
Absolutely. So you can take your training to such a level that it looks like photographic memory, even though it is not.
Got it. Because end of the day, I think memory is also like a skill, right? And you
Absolutely.
can master any skill in this world.
Exactly. And I mean, this is so easy for people to understand when it comes to public speaking or swimming or driving. Yeah, you can go from zero, you can go to expert level with some practice, energy, and some dedication. You can do that. But when it comes to memory, somehow they think that no, either you have it or you don't.
That is
That's
out of your reach. That
no,
is not a skill.
Exactly. It's like they think, oh, it's like the weather. I don't have control on that. No, you do have control on it.
Yeah.
It's just that we are not, like, for example, a lot of times in my workshops, I do this. I ask them, what do you do to improve your physical fitness? People say, yeah, jogging, cycling, hiking, gym, Pilates, blah, blah, blah. Okay, good. What do you do for your mental fitness? People are not actively doing something for their mental fitness. Now, if you don't do anything for your physical fitness and expect you to be physically fit, it's just not possible.
Yep.
Similarly, for mental fitness, the same thing. You need to train your brain, you need to improve your memory, you need to give exercise to your memory faculty, and that's how you can take your memory to the next level. But yes, it's definitely possible. Like what you said, it is absolutely a skill, and because it is a skill, you can go to any depth of that skill depending on how much you want it and how much time and energy you put in it. Yeah.
Yep. So when we talk about our memory and our brain capacity, all right, what is our brain's capacity to remember things?
Yeah, that's a very interesting thing. I make a reference of this in the video that you talked about 10x the video. There's actually scientists have done research on that. I mean, I exactly do not know how they actually did the research, but they found out that if at all you have to compare your memory capacity, storage capacity, with that of a hard drive. We have hard drives in your phones, 100 GB, 125 GB, 128, or 512 GB.
Yep.
But in terms of gigabytes, if you actually see the capacity of the human brain, it's 2.5 million gigabytes.
2.5 million
GBs.
GBs.
Yeah, that's an incredibly large storage capacity. Now, again, like I said, this is just an estimate.
Okay.
It could be more than that. But
Yep.
based on the information that they have, based on the research that they've done,
Yeah.
if you have to put in terms of GBs, gigabyte perspective, that is how much storage we have.
Wow.
So isn't it incredible that we have such large storage capacity,
Yeah.
but we still struggle to remember what happened yesterday, or what did we eat in the breakfast today, right?
Yeah. That's really very amazing, because even if you were to give a 50% discount to that number, right, and say that, you know what, it's half of that,
Yeah.
it's still 1.25 million GB. So that's
Yeah.
still a lot.
A lot, yes, it is.
So now that we've established that we do have that capacity for memory, that means our storage capacity is there, and that memory is a skill that we can improve. We
Yes.
may not be born with a good memory, but we can definitely make our memory better.
True.
So what can we do then? What can we do to improve our memory?
Yeah, so yeah, that's a great question, and it is definitely possible to do that. So if we really bring it down to the basics, so I use this model a lot because it's very easy to understand, and we can go into depths as and when it is required. So the basic premise is this: the way the human brain works is the 3R model.
Okay.
Right? The first 3 R's. Our first R is registration. The second R is retention. The third R is recall.
Okay.
So anything that we are learning, first we have to register. Register means the process of keeping the information into your brain. Let's say you're reading something, you're listening to a video, you're watching this video, for example, your brain is trying to register. Now, that is very easy because you can open a book and you can start registering the information. But the real question is when someone asks you a day later, what did you learn in the book yesterday? That is where the problem of retention comes in. So it's not so much about how do you register, but the real important question in today's world is how much of it can you retain it for a long period of time. There's a second R,
Yeah.
and the third R is recall. So recall is like, okay, you learned something today, and maybe you retain it for some time, but let's say, I don't know, 10 days later or 10 years later, for example. 10 years maybe too bit of a stretch, but let's say a month later, and you are in a presentation, you're in a conversation, and you want to recall something from that book. Recall. Are you able to recall the information? So that's the 3 R's.
So what do we then do once now that we know this
Yes.
3R?
Yes.
So what do we start with first? Do we start with trying to register things better? And if so, how do we register things better?
Right.
Or do we go with recall? Or do we go with
Retention.
retention?
Yeah. Okay. So it's fairly simple here, because out of the 3 R's, the first R is what you have a lot of control on: registration.
Okay.
So usually, this is what I say.
Yeah.
Like, your quality of recall is usually, not always, but usually directly proportional to the quality of registration.
Okay.
If registration is awesome, recall is awesome. Registration is lousy, recall is lousy.
Okay.
So what I will definitely say is, whatever you're learning, whenever you're learning, whatever you're learning, at the time of learning, try to make a very good registration of that information into your brain. Now, what do I mean by that, and how does it play out in real life, right? The easiest answer is 2 words, and these 2 words are something that all people on the planet have heard from their teachers, and the
Okay.
2 words are pay attention.
Wow. That's bringing back a lot of memories.
Yeah, that's good.
It's a
true.
lot of memories.
Yeah, we're all familiar with that. Turns out your teachers are right. And they didn't probably tell us how to do it,
Yeah.
but they're telling us that pay attention, pay attention, pay attention, and that is true. Because the problem is, especially in today's world of distractions and phones and all that stuff, when you are learning. Okay, I'll ask you this question. I'll ask the question to everyone watching this video. When was the last time you want to learn something and you open a book and you were really fully engrossed in the book, not even engrossed, just trying to remember information from the book or reading the book with no phone nearby, right? And also with no distractions nearby. So it's not possible. In fact, it's alarming that the number of times for people these days, when they, like, for example, I might, like, maybe, I read an article on parenting, for example, and I thought this is a good article for parenting. So I have another friend of mine who's also a parent, and I forward this article. Hey, check it out. It's a very nice article about parenting. And typically what happens, I've seen many people, the amount of attention span is so much that a lot of people, they do not read the whole article. They just browse it and they save it for later, and the later never comes.
Yep.
So what I'm trying to say is, when we are learning information, either we are saving it for later because we are now addicted to doing something exciting all the time, something which is stimulating, which is the phone, which is the reels, which are the shorts, and some kind of stimulation. So when it comes to learning, a lot of times people are not paying attention. Coming back to your teacher throwing chalks at you, we were not paying attention then.
Yep.
We're not paying attention now, and that is the problem. So here's the thing. I'll tell you the secret, in my opinion, the secret of world-class performance. 2 words: single tasking.
Okay.
World-class performance. In fact, you think of anyone in your mind right now, even for the people who are watching this, think of any person in your mind who you admire for his or her world-class performance. The reason they got there is because when they were learning their craft, when they were perfecting their craft, they were focusing on single tasking. Okay. They were just doing that and that thing only. So, I mean, I'm not saying that you have to be Olympic level athlete or you have to go to the Olympic levels. No, I'm just saying that if you just want to just be better at whatever you're doing, when you open the book, let's say, set a time limit, say 15 minutes.
Okay.
In that 15 minutes, pay 100% attention on what you are learning. Just that and nothing else. Just that alone will actually help you to have a 10 times better registration. So pay attention. I mean, it might look like pay attention is such a simple word, but it is not. People are not paying attention. So if you can learn the art of being mindful, and at the time of learning, you focus only on that and nothing else, you are actually improving your registration. And guess what? Retention goes up. Guess what? Recall goes up. That's the first step. We can talk about other steps.
Yep.
But since you ask about how do you register,
Yeah.
and of course, how do you mess it up?
Yeah.
Exact opposite.
Multitasking.
Don't do multitasking, don't pay attention,
Yep.
and you read a page and then you go your phone, come back here, and especially students.
Yep.
It's a sin.
Yep.
Looking at the phone is, I mean, I know it's a big word, but you know what I mean. I mean, you are being tested for that. I mean, in adults, we're not really tested that way. The students are tested. But I've seen students don't have that too. So adults or students, if you want to learn for 15 minutes, 15 minutes, take a resolution that only, okay, after 15 minutes, you can go crazy, do whatever you want. But in that 15 minutes, take a commitment, be serious about your learning journey because it's going to change your life.
It's kind of like the concept of deliberate practice, but now you're doing deliberate registration.
Deliberate registration. So you're being very deliberate about paying attention while you're learning, which aids you to have better registration. It is.
Perfect. Cool. So now that we have covered the registration bit, which is paying attention to register better, the next step is retention.
Yes.
Okay. So how do we then retain information better?
Yeah, that's a great thing because attention is where you get the information. Now the problem with that thing is, let's say for example, you can really pay attention. Let's say you set yourself a zone that no disturbances or no distractions, 100% attention for the next, say 15 minutes. And when you're learning something, there is a possibility that you are learning, but then something is not clear. Maybe so. This is my next step. This is which I usually talk about. It is the ability to comprehend and internalize what you are learning.
Okay.
And if you don't do that, there's no retention.
Okay.
So, like for example, how many times it has happened? Anyone? It happened to me also. Like there's an exam coming up, and I just wasted the whole year, and then I have an exam, and my goal is to just pass the examination. So what I do, I just do repetition, right? Repeat 100 times, and then I can only remember it till the exam day. The moment the exam is over, you ask me anything, just boom, just gone. So there was registration, but there's no retention.
Yep.
It's only short term, or even in the exam, because of fear, sometimes you can't even remember that information. So it's not about registration, it's about what you register. Are you internalizing what you're learning?
Okay.
So I'll give an example. Let's say you are learning about a particular skill, or you're learning about leadership, or you're learning about science or physics. It doesn't really matter what you're learning. At the time of learning, don't just learn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 what they're saying, but after you learn, pause and reflect.
Okay.
Okay, how does this apply in my life? How can I use it in my life? How does this relate to the information that I learned in the previous chapter, for example, if you're a student?
Yep.
So, or if you're a leader, for example, you're reading leadership, you're reading a book on leadership techniques. So don't just go for, okay, these are the 5 techniques. No, wait after one technique or one paragraph and say, okay, I'm a leader, and tomorrow, how can I use this in my life? Let's say you're reading sales book. Oh, this is a sales technique. Don't just think that, okay, this is one good sales technique, but think, okay, how can I use it in my next time when I'm with a prospect? So once you do that, what happens is you are not just going through the information, but also you are really indulging in the information in a good way, and make it a part of you. It becomes
You're creating like a link.
It's a
to
link.
how you can apply it, right?
How
And
to apply it, yes. So it's not just some information in some part of your brain, but also you know how to apply it in your life. So when you do that, that is where comprehension comes in. Because if you're learning without comprehension, without internalization, without reflection, then what happens is it just becomes just pure bits of information, and it does not turn into knowledge. And then 5 days later, when you really are in a position where you need to use the information, you simply can't, because it's just information with you.
Yep.
You're not internalized that. There's no comprehension of that information.
So what I'm hearing is, to really have a better retention, okay, we've got to create a linkage to what we are learning, make it relevant to us, because when there's relevancy, it's
Yes.
easier to go to the next step, which is the recall stage.
Yes. So now here's the thing. The good news is, if you can take care of registration, retention, recall automatically gets taken care of.
Okay.
Because the reason why you can't recall is because you didn't retain in the first place. And the reason why you didn't retain is because probably you haven't registered. So if you paid attention at the time of registration, and if you internalized it at the time of retention, so you remember, you register, and then recall becomes easy. But then specifically, if you want to improve the quality of a recall, that is where the next step comes in, and that is testing yourself.
Okay.
This is a key important step in the process of learning. Doesn't matter what you're learning, doesn't matter what level of learner you are, you learn a new concept, you internalize it, and also test yourself.
Okay.
And that is, I mean, without testing, what happens is, this is just the way the human brain works. Information comes in, and this is how it enters. Like, let's say this is a graph, this is x-axis, this is y-axis, right? Information, the memory is right now here, but as this is time. Okay, the x-axis is the time, and this is the how much you remember information. So on day one, it's very high, 100%. You remember everything very clearly because you just learned something now.
Yeah.
So on the 1, 2, 3 days, as the days progress, the learning retention goes down. It just goes down.
Yeah.
So if you go down, then at the 4th day, when the graph is here, if you want to recall the information, you can't because there's not so much of it. So that is where you, on day 1, day 2, day 3, test yourself. Okay, what was it I learned yesterday? Oh, I learned these 3 things. And it so happens that, let's say you learned 10 things today, and tomorrow you try to recall, test yourself basically.
Yep.
Maybe you only remember 5. But here's the problem. Not the problem, but here's the thing. Let's say you learn 10 things. Next day morning, you wake up and then you want to test yourself, and you're thinking, oh, you only have 5. What happened to the other 5? Oh my goodness. Why I'm like this? The moment you put yourself down, you're killing your memory potential.
So don't beat yourself down.
Exactly, that's a key word. Because you can't get stress into the picture. Stress is one of the biggest reasons why your retention get affected, your recall gets affected. Now, how many times I've seen students, I mean, I use the word student because they can easily relate to this thing, because everyone on the planet was once a student, right? So how many times it happened that you thoroughly prepared everything. You did all the test papers, you mentally recalled information, you're so ready for the examination. In the examination, you forget information. And then you're thinking, oh my goodness, I know the answer for this. Oh, it was here, it's here. It doesn't come out. Now, did you forget? I'll tell you, you didn't forget because after the exam is over, you recall it. But it's already too late by the time.
Yep.
Now, can you call this person a forgetful person? No, because on that moment you forgot, but after the examination, you remembered. Now, what's the difference between the brain that was in the exam and the brain that was outside the exam? Stress. So stress, I mean, you can have a great registration, you can have a great retention, but if you're having stress, then that actually impacts your memory ability also. So that's the reason why, okay, now I'll give you a worst example right now, okay? To just tell you how this plays out in real life. It's possible, especially you're learning something very dense, very complex, something you're learning for the very first time in your life, 10 points. Next day morning you wake up, maybe you wake up with only 1 point, 9 points are gone, boom, done.
Yep.
There's nothing you can do. If it's gone, it's gone. There's no point of crying about it. So you can say, you know what, okay, I messed up, okay, let me just refocus and learn those 9 points again. So once you get this habit, then when really you forgot a lot of information, in your brain you're saying that, okay, it's fine, it's a part of natural life. It's not your fault.
Yep.
It's not you. It is the nature of the brain. And we have never trained our brain that way. So once you start training your brain over a number of times, so the 3rd time, the 5th time, the 10th time, slowly you'll see out of 10, and sometimes it happens, like for me it happens, I could be learning something for the very first time, I don't know anything about this subject. Now tomorrow morning, I might only forget just 1.
Yeah.
I'll remember 9. But even I'm a memory expert, I'm the Guinness Record holder, I'm the Grandmaster of Memory. Do I forget? Yes, I do. But the only difference is when I forget, I'm not beating myself up. I'm not saying, what will people think about me? I mean, I'm done for the day. No, I just think that, okay, you know what, it's okay. I'll go for it again. Because the mindset definitely plays a lot of role. In fact, this is what I say in my programs. Where there is stress, there is no memory. Memory and stress can't live together. They're enemies. Right? You have stress, memory flies out of the window. So when stress is out of the window, memory comes in.
Got it. I love that. I really love what you just said, because I think this is one aspect that is not often talked about. Okay, and I love the fact that you got to be kind to yourself.
Yes.
Right? Because you are training your mind. And I remember all those times where even when I was sitting for exams last time, and then I'm sitting there and I can't remember, and then I'm going like, how can you not remember this? You knew this. I'm beating myself up. And the more I beat myself up, the less I remember.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
hearing what you're saying now, a better strategy would have just been that, you know what, it's fine. I'll probably remember this in a bit. Let me look at something else first. And because the stress levels is low, my recall would probably just be better later on.
Absolutely. In fact, we're hearing this a lot in self-help these days, the importance of self-compassion. Like even if procrastination,
Yep.
right? Let's say you're a procrastinator. I mean, you can wake up every day and then you say, oh, today also I didn't do it. Oh, the whole week just gone by. And then, you know, what kind of a person I am. I'm not responsible. I'm not taking my work seriously. Yeah, that is all true.
Yeah.
Because
They're facts, yeah.
they are facts. You can't
Yeah.
deny that. But then the more and more you focus on the facts, the less and less you're doing something about it.
Yep.
And then you can say, just agree, first of all, yeah, I did a bad job.
Yep.
But you know what? Let me not just continue with that.
Yeah.
It's okay. It was a bad week. It's okay. I made a mistake. You know what? Let me change that script right now. So let's not be in the hypnotic stage of keeping on going, and then it becomes into chronic procrastination over a period of time, and then you feel bad about it. So whether it is procrastination or memory or learning, in fact, forget about memory.
Yeah.
Talk about any skill that you're learning or anything you're learning. There will be challenges, and the best way to deal with the challenge is self-compassion. Tell yourself that, okay, I messed up. Oh, I was not able to do it. Take help if required, and then go to the next step and give one more attempt, and then over a period of time, you become better at that thing.
Because it's about the identity that we're building for ourselves, right?
Exactly.
Coming back
Yes.
to, I think, a discussion that we had where people say that, oh, I'm just born with a bad memory. I'm just like that. I don't have a good memory.
Yes.
And the more you solidify this identity that you have created for yourself, the more real that identity becomes.
So that reminds me of the word self-fulfilling prophecy, which is what we're doing to ourselves. So you keep on saying that, you know, I'm a bad parent, I'm a bad parent, I'm a bad parent. You end up becoming a bad parent because that's what the identity has become.
Yep.
Or I'm a bad learner, I'm a bad learner, I'm a bad learner. Yeah, you end up becoming a bad learner. So the question is, okay, now I establish the fact that you're a bad learner. Okay, good. Make peace with it and say, okay, what can I do with it right now? Because the more and more you're thinking about it, you're not helping yourself.
Yep.
Or the fact that the skill is not improving.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're right. You have to get out of the identity.
Yep.
And the only way to do that is kindness to yourself and do it again.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Nishan, to bring our conversation to a close, right? This is my question for you.
Yeah.
If you had a magic wand and you could rule the world and you can change anything,
Yes.
how would you change how teachers teach and how parents teach their children to aid in better, memory or confidence or learning for that matter?
Yeah, it's a really good question, I think. I need to do some thinking about it. But I think off the cuff, the thing that really comes to my mind is, I think number one is, I don't know if this is coming from, it does make sense to you or not, because you use the word, what can teachers do, what can parents do better?
Yep.
One thing, the first thing I'm going to say is nothing to do with memory techniques at all, and the word is compassion.
Okay.
I think we need to be aware that there are different people with different learning challenges, different ways of learning, different types of learning, different thresholds of learning. So it can't be one size fits all, right? So you can't just say, okay, in a group of 30 people, or you have, as a parent, maybe you have 2 children, and say, okay, you have to learn this for the next 1 hour. I think you have to be a bit more compassionate about it. But of course, just compassion is not going to go the trick.
Okay.
But then I think the real learning happens, whether you're a teacher or a parent, and if you want to really help your child, I think one of the things that I would say a magic wand technique would be something like, explain to them in a way that they really understand. Comprehension is at the core of everything. Because see, if you take out everything else I told you, let's just focus on comprehension just for a bit. Comprehension. At the end of the learning session, ask the student, ask the child, instead of just doing one-way delivery, ask the child, okay, what did you learn? If they learn, congratulations, you're a great teacher, you're a great parent, right? If they did not, that person is not a great, lousy child.
Yep.
It is not. It's just because it just happened that he or she did not really understand. So you have to be more compassionate and explain in a maybe different analogy, different association, different way of explaining things. I think compassion and comprehension. I think we can add another C and then make it three C's.
Yeah, no, I
So-
love that. I love that. I think it's definitely right. It's very important. I think especially the compassion bit, and then that comprehension and having that patience to
Yes.
understand that every child is different. Everybody is different in the way that they learn. Some learn faster, some learn slower.
Yeah.
But there's no wrong way.
Yes.
You know, and there's no wrong child.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
and I love that.
Yes.
So love it.
Yeah.
Nishan,
Yeah.
thank you so much for
pleasure.
sharing all your thoughts, your insights here with me today. Ladies and gentlemen, for those who are watching, Nishan has been featured on the Ideas and Inspiration channel many times now. So do go and check out all of his videos there. As of now, there should be 3 videos of his on the Ideas and Inspiration channel. There's the video that talks about how to learn anything fast. That's got over 15 million views. There's a video on how to remember what you read. That's got almost 500,000 views, if I remember correctly. And the latest video that I put up a couple of weeks ago is how to remember a 10-digit number, at least how Nishan remembered a 10-digit number. So do go and check out all of these videos. There is a lot of valuable insights. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to put it down in the comment section below. I've also put the links to Nishan's e-learning programs in the description. Please go and check it out because trust me, it's amazing. Okay, so once again, Nishan, thank you so much for joining
Thanks,
me here
Jit,
today.
for this interview. Really appreciate it. I really had a great time doing this.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.